Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. It's another episode, a special tonight with Simon from Your League TV. A big fan of Whitehawk and non-league and also grassroots football. I'll get him on in a minute. On Monday night, we've got another episode at 8 o'clock, so look forward to that. Tonight, as I say, we've got Simon from Your League TV. He'll be talking about mental health within football, also outside of football, and also his experiences with mental health. So I'll be getting him on now.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, good evening, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I just had another meeting, a 75th anniversary meeting. So long day, long day.
Long one. Yeah, so uh, on every special or every live, what I say is obviously introduce yourself to the people who don't know you. Um, let them know how we met and also what mental health means to you.
Yeah, well, I'm Simon. Go by the name of Odds and Evens. My surname's Stevens. So as a kid, I was called Odds and Evens, Stevens. Brought up in Brighton on Whitehall Estate, and yeah, we met. I run Your League TV, and I've got a couple of other things that I do involving music. I've got non-league chatter and tunes. So, non-league chatter tunes is a radio show podcast once a month, which I mix music with interviews with non-league people, and hopefully Jamie can come on to the next one. The studio's
Yeah.
been shut at the moment because of COVID and everything, so we couldn't go in. But we're allowed back in from the 6th of July. So I
Yeah.
do a couple of shows. One's music, one's non-league football. So yeah, and I really enjoy it. And we met through Henry Muggeridge actually. He
Yeah.
played in your
Whitehall
uh,
captain.
your team, your Soccer Sixes. Really lovely lad. He's the captain at Whitehawk. And he's just a top fellow. And he said, look, you need to hook up with Jamie, and that's what we're doing. So we've made it.
Yeah. So, what? First question about mental health. Obviously, if you want to say anything about mental health in general, or your experiences, or what you do around mental health, or anything like that, then obviously say it. If you want to say it. If not, then I'll just ask some questions. Hopefully, obviously, anyone else who wants to ask any questions. We just have a general chat really about mental health. So, what does mental health mean to you?
Well, it's I just think it's one of the, along with obviously physical health. I think mental health is essential for a human being. For a human being to survive the ups and downs of life. I think um, if you're healthy mentally, then there's a lot of stuff goes on in life as you grow up and as you become an adult, and that was certainly true of me. There's a lot of confusing things that go on, and everyone has their own um, life experiences and lived experiences, and everyone's like all humans. Everyone's different, and everyone copes with things in a different way. I mean, I grew up in quite a confusing household. My dad was a very, very well loved and liked man, but he'd be the first to say he was a bit of a rogue, and it was kind of confusing. And growing up, I had to hold a lot in and hide a lot. Not hide, but I had to. I grew up in a house where you just had to keep your mouth shut. No one knows what goes on in the house. It might be the same. I don't know you that well, Jamie, yet, but
Mm.
it may have been the same for you. But I grew up in a house where you kept your mouth shut, and you certainly didn't talk about your feelings, or even really show them, and that can be A, confusing, and B, it can be very bad for you. Keeping all that stuff in and stuff, and I used to you know, I think the first experience, I used to lie a lot, and I couldn't really understand why I lied. You know, if
Mm.
someone said, "Did you at school? Did you see that TV program last night?" And even if I probably hadn't seen it, but I'd have to say yes because I wanted to fit in. You know, I
Yeah.
couldn't really, I didn't really have the people around me to sort of, you know, my old man was one of, my mum's teetotal straight goer, and my old man was a bit of a rogue, so that was confusing enough. Um, and I soon found out that I soon found out a way of surviving. Firstly, was by just fitting in and lying and and bravado and putting on that thing. And I think underneath it, Jamie, to be honest, I was a frightened child. You know, I was
Mm.
quite frightened. So I didn't know where to put that fear, and it would come out in different behaviours. And as I got older, I found. You know, I can be honest on here. Um, you know, I found drinking substance. You know, I grew up on the estate, so everyone puffed,
Mm.
everyone drank. It was a rite of passage, and I found out later on in life, to be honest, that it wasn't doing me any good. I went down a slippery slope. So yeah, I think mental health is really important at the moment. As I work as a youth worker in a day centre with 16 to 25-year-olds. I know that you're a teacher, you're in a school, so I have a responsibility to take on that responsibility, and I have to kind of know what I'm talking about, really, because kids come with, these are homeless kids as well, so they come with
Mm.
a lot of baggage, and I think it's really interesting topic, and it's really complex, you know, it's multi-layered, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of explains my view on it.
Yeah, of course. With obviously, you've touched on your day job and obviously what you've gone through. As a personal view, what do you feel may be the turning point, or how did you get over the certain situations what you went through when maybe you was younger?
Uh, well, I suppose I acted out a lot. You know, I acted out. So first it was football. You know, playing football. I mean, my story was I played football for a bit as a kid, did quite well, got into sort of Whitehall third team, and then I found at 16 I was in the clubhouse more than I was on the football pitch. So I
Mm.
found that drink and I got through it by drinking, joking around, playing up,
Mm.
and blah blah blah. Um, and then that led on to other things. So I didn't cope with it very well. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
until I was 40 that I kind of, my story is that at 40, I kind of saw the light. I just thought, I just had this moment of clarity or whatever you call it.
Mm.
And I just thought, I can't keep doing this because I'm going to
Mm.
either end up in prison, I'm going to end up in a, in a mental health unit, or I'm going to end up dead, you know,
Yeah.
and I had responsibilities. I had a 5-year-old boy then. He's 21 now. So over the last 15 years, I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've sought professional help. Um, and I met a lot of people that have been in similar situations for me, and I think that is what helped me is listening and being with people that had been through similar stuff, not exactly the same, but similar
Mm.
stuff, and maybe worse. Some of them, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask as well. Obviously, you've gone through two stages of it, so you've had help from the professionals as well, but you've also had the stage of talking to people what have gone through it as well, or been around it. How do you feel they both helped you evenly, or do you feel it was more the specialists, or do you feel it was the people what have actually gone through it?
I think I think that to deal with my avoidance, i.e., drinking, whatever comes, you know, drinking drugs, basically. To deal with that, I needed to speak to people that had been there and knew what they were, kind of knew what they were talking about. So I put
Mm.
blind faith in them. You know what, you've been there, you understand where
Mm.
I've been.
Mm.
Because I was very confused. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just couldn't stop. I'm one of those guys that can't
Mm.
drink. If I have a drink, I'm off. Um,
Yeah.
And then on the other side of things, the professional help was once I'd sort of kind of sobered up a bit. I thought okay, they don't understand certain bits. So I went to the GP and I said, look, I'm having trouble because I was already had trouble with relationships, not just with women,
Mm. Yeah.
but also with friends and stuff and people that I met. So I'd meet you, we'd be pals, and then something had happened and I'd go off, and I never valued that. So what I did, I went to the GP and I said, look, I can't work this out. There's something wrong with me. I don't know what it was, and it was only, and I got 6 sessions with a fellow, and he said, look, and he listened to my child and stuff, and the label he put on it was this thing called freedom of neglect, and
Okay.
although my mum and dad loved me dearly, they just, I was free to sort of, I was like a latchkey kid. You know what I mean? It was,
Yeah.
school wasn't really important, although I was bright. I wasn't guided in that way. I didn't really attach to any teachers. I just wanted to mess around. So they put a thing. He kind of put a label on it that maybe is helpful for some people, but it made me realise, like, I understood that freedom of. So I've never had any boundaries. I've never had any boundaries. I was off doing what I wanted, and then when you go into adulthood without any boundaries, as you probably know, um,
Mm.
you know, you're kind of fucked, really, because the
Mm.
world works around having boundaries, and if no one stops you, you just continue doing what you're doing. And in my case, it was, I was kind of harming people along my way, and I knew it wasn't right. But these 6 sessions with a psychotherapist, with a therapist, set me on that. And then from that, I found someone that I used to go and see this woman for like about 10 or 11 years every Friday after
Mm.
work, which is a ball ache, you know. You
Yeah.
finish work but I committed to it, and that was the
Mm.
other thing. I'd never committed to anything. I'd
Mm.
start something, not finish it, and I went along and saw that, as I say, every Friday and she just put put me. It was just good to talk about and work out how these relationships evolve and how you nurture them and how you sort of treat other people, really, and why I'm more importantly, why do I feel, my question was, why do I feel like this? Do
Yeah.
other people feel, you know? And she put me, she really helped me to sort of navigate that and go, well, the reason you don't get on with some of your female colleagues is possibly because they remind you of either your mum or your sister, because I've got a younger sister who always
Yeah.
had the attention and blah blah blah, so I was always attention seeking. That might make sense.
Mm.
So I think the professional side of things helped with that side, and then the other people that I met and friends that I made that have been where I'd been or similar places, um, addicts and alcoholics, really. They said, look, you're suffering from an illness, and
Mm.
you need to fucking sort it out, because, you know, some of them were very clear. You're gonna, you know, the old Irish boys and that I met, they said, look,
Mm.
Simon, you're a goner. You're gonna go. You know, it happens. And that kind of brutal truth really brought me to my senses. And
Mm.
you know, they also said that by and it sounds a bit hairy fairy, but it kind of makes sense. If I'm not thinking about myself all the time,
Mm.
if I'm thinking of others and what I can do for others, whether that's other people that are in similar situations, kids that come to the centre, or anyone that comes in my, you know, especially around the football, you meet a lot of people, and they, you know, that
Yeah.
once you know them, they kind of open up, and they're like, it's and to be able to help them and say, look, it's all right, and it stops me thinking about myself, Jamie,
Mm.
because I'm like a selfish human being, you know, left to my own devices. What can
Yeah.
I get out of something? And it really helped to just to try and help other people wherever I can in the community as
Mm.
well. You know, I do quite a lot of community stuff, and
Yeah.
I've gone back to my community where I grew up, and I'm trying to help out there and get kids playing football. And you know, there's some barriers, and people got their own agendas, and you've been there yourself. You're trying to do something. You're not trying to
Mm.
hurt anyone, but um, yeah, I'm kind of able to navigate that now,
Mm.
and say, right, okay, all I want to do is give kids the opportunity to play football, they need a football and some equipment, and if they want to play football, they need a kit. So let's just try and get the money for them to do that. But
Yeah.
it really helps. It really helps.
Do you feel, obviously, after all the troubles you've gone through and you went to your counsellor and you met the people, and obviously now turning round and coming out the other side, obviously you saying giving back is such a positive thing. You've got that focus now to not think about the negative sides before, and now think about the positive, what you're doing for the community, and pass on your experiences to help others. Do you feel that there should be more things or more projects like that, to help people?
Yeah, I think there's. I just think it really helps, but you know, it's kind of, in some ways it's just too organised. I mean, I met a geezer. I went to a talk with a geezer that started the Big Issue. He's a proper Cockney geezer, and he tells it how it is. And he said, look,
Mm,
in terms of money and funding, he said, look, he wanted to get. He said, look, give me 10 grand, and he called it piss it up the wall money.
yeah,
And what he meant was, just give me 10 grand. I'll give it to X amount of people and say, look, what's your idea? Go and crack on. Go and do what you got to do. Go and
yeah,
whether that's start a little business or pay for some education or blah blah blah.
mm,
And he said that there's so many barriers to do that because you have to tick so many boxes. And I
boxes,
came on
yeah,
when your fresh guy was on, and you know, he was talking a lot of sense, because it has to be the right people that go to out into the communities. You can't just go and say, I know about this, I know. You know, you can take your lived experience and you can share that,
mm,
but I think you need to kind of take something to the party. You can't just go in gun ho, because there are, again, boundaries. You've got to reach certain criteria. I think that maybe they could be loosened a little bit, where people are given a bit more of an opportunity. I mean, I got into it through volunteering. I was up running after chasing money before I went into youth
yeah,
work and stuff. But I went and volunteered because I didn't have any qualifications. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
I left
mm,
school with like zilch,
mm,
really. And I was given an opportunity, and I think those opportunities need to open up. You know, let's get people from within the communities trained up, and you know, done quickly and nicely, yeah,
yeah.
properly, and but just get them on the front line. There's too many barriers to what people want to do, really.
Mm. Do you feel from back when you was younger to what there is now? Do you feel the stereotype has changed, towards mental health, or do you still feel there's still a big stereotype and stigma around mental health?
No, I think there's a massive. I think there's still a massive stigma around it. It's seen as being weak. It's seen as being. Yeah, I think I think there is a stigma around it. Definitely. Yeah, it's just seen as you know, we especially with men. You know, because we grow up, we're taught a certain way to behave, and especially, you know, living in London. I've been here since 1989. I left Brighton in 1989. You know, or wherever on council estates stuff, you have to put on this certain bravado. And even going to the pub, I could never go in the pub and say, oh, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable today, James. Or I'm a bit feared up. I've got a bit of fear around this situation, and you know, I'm going on Jamie's show tonight, and I'm a bit feared up. You know,
Mm,
people aren't in boozers and places that I frequented, and
yeah.
even boys' club. Going back, you know, you didn't go in the boys' club and start saying, "Oh, I feel a bit like, feel a bit there. There's this is going on at home,"
Yeah.
because people are just going to say, "Man, you know, literally
It's
man
that
up."
word. It's that word, man up, isn't it? It's that word.
Yeah,
A lot of people turn around and say, man up, man up. And it's like, but what does that word mean? Like, honestly, what does that word mean? And that is the word what everyone uses as the stereotype or the stigma behind it. They feel by saying that word, oh, it's all right. He's a man. Just man up. He's okay. He get on with it. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's I mean, I meet a lot of kids that come in through the door where I am, and they you know, I can see it. You can see the fear in them. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm
Mm,
trained and I've been around it and I felt it myself. It's like,
yeah.
but they're not going to come in immediately and say, oh, well, but they say I've been wherever they've been. It's like all full of that, and then after a few weeks, once they get to, trust is a big thing as well, Jamie. I think trust is a massive thing because,
100%.
again, I didn't mention that. If you grow up in an environment where there's no trust and you can't really trust anyone, then you're keeping a lot down, and it's not until you meet that person you can trust that then you can kind of open up. And I don't think a lot of people are open or awake to the fact that actually I can trust this person or give you a chance. It takes a long time.
Sometimes, as you say, yeah, I feel like it's you feel it might be a certain person or certain people that you can trust, but it turns out that it's not them people. So from a lot of people what have come on the lives, and from my personal point of view, I felt like it's not always the people what you feel is closest to you that you can trust. It turns out that it might be somebody else. Like from my point of view, I've said it many times on here. The closest people to me, I ended up it not being them what helped me. It ended up being my now girlfriend, but um, also the six-a-side boys. Like I knew them through football, but I didn't know I could open up to them that well. You know what I mean? And then it ended up that they ended up being closer to me than some of my best friends, who I thought was going to be the closest to me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I think it's finding the right people. This is the message what a lot of people turned around and said. It's finding the right people to be able to open up to.
yeah. I mean, you cut. I mean, you can't. Yeah, you. I think you've just got to find that. I think there was a point where I either didn't trust anyone or I trusted everyone. When you're off your nut and yeah, I'd just spill my life. If you put, but that's not the sort of trust. And then you'd go out the week after. It's like, what did you say to John? What did you say to Bill?
Yeah.
Hold on, what are you doing? And
What are you talking now?
and then when I actually sit down and go, right, okay. When you actually sit down and go, right, okay, who is it in my life that I can trust 100%? Um, there weren't that many people, and as you say, it was the people that I met after making a decision. I'm not going to have that life. I want a different life. That I met met a woman, my now partner, who
Mm,
I've been with for 13 years, and after a few months I opened up to her and said, look, this went on, that went on. She was fine. She's a psychotherapist. Not barring that, she's a really lovely human being. So it took a long time for me to trust her, Jamie, because I've got
mm,
jealousy issues as well.
yeah.
I've got that on
Mm,
top. And then through meeting these people that had been where I'd been, they said, look, they explained, look, trust is a big thing. And they said to me, a couple of fellas said to me, look, you can share anything you want with me. It stays with me
mm,
and it goes nowhere, because that was their kind of deal. That's the
yeah.
deal.
Mm,
And I think outside of that, there are people that I've met through football and through Whitehawk, especially through being involved with Whitehawk, and people down at Dorking and other places that I've been. There's one guy called Alan Payne, who I met through Whitehall. He's an older fellow, and I can trust him with my life. Do you know what I mean? I don't know him that
mm,
well.
yeah.
I've only known him like 3 or 4 years, but I can go to him, and he's been a father,
Mm,
so he knows how to deal with a 21-year-old kid. Or I've got two, but he knows how to deal with it. He's been there before, and I think it's important to have those kind of mentors, but also the people that are my age or younger. You know, you need to know who you can talk to and who's going to keep
mm,
your confidence and keep stuff that sensitive stuff and that stuff we need to talk about to themselves. And I think it's working in this world of social media and working in this world of doing what we do and what we're trying to do, and we're not harming anyone. We just want to put our stuff out and do it.
mm,
There's a lot of mistrust in that as well.
yeah.
You can't really fucking trust anyone. You've got to take your time to build those relationships. And
Mm,
I'm not after anything. You're not after anything.
Yeah.
That's why I've come on here, because I realised that you're not really after anything. I haven't got anything to give apart from my experience, and come on
Yeah.
and being, and that's the way I kind of see it now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, all right, you know, you go into this social media or whatever it is, and build a channel and try and do your best and put out little documentaries and do what I do on a match day and go out. You know, I'm putting a lot out there, like yourself, putting a lot out there. You're doing it twice a week. You know, do I trust everyone that watches it and have they got my back? Maybe not everyone, but I have to trust a certain amount of people to um
Mm.
to have my back, you know, and it only
Yeah.
takes 4 or 5 people to have your back, and then you're kind of safe. You can, I think it's about security. That trust thing is about security and feeling secure, and that can, from that you can build your confidence.
Mm.
You know, it's
What
very layered.
What do you feel? Obviously, we're heavily involved, obviously, in non-league and grassroots football. Um, Obviously from the top they have a lot more specialists within academies and the actual Premier League or Championship clubs and everything like that. But what do you feel clubs could do lower down in the non-league system or grassroots to help with maybe players or supporters suffering with maybe mental health or little struggles here and there? What do you feel they could do?
Well, I think they realistically, I think they could have, um, you know, they've got welfare officers and stuff like that, and I think there could be. I mean, if I take my work, but I'll relate it to non-league football. Say the kids that I work with are players. If they come to me, I don't go, let's sit. I'll sit down and have an initial chat, but I'm not going to
Mm,
pretend I'm a mental health practitioner. You know, the
mm.
working of the mind is like it's like me bringing my car to you and going, James, can you sort that out? It's like,
Yeah, of
oh,
course. Yeah.
I'm not. You might say to me, well, I'm not a mechanic.
Mm,
Or you might say to me, because you really like me, do you know what? Yeah, I'll have a go and mess it up. So
mm,
you're playing with a very tricky thing. The mind is a very tricky thing,
mm.
um, and very complicated thing. So I think what could happen is, if someone came to me and then I go, actually, what you need to do is you need to go to your GP and get your 6 sessions. You're entitled to those 6 sessions. Um, and then you can take it from there. If you go, I mean, I used to have to pay for my therapy, so there could be some funding in there to
Mm.
pay for for players and stuff to get the therapy, and I think it has to be, because of the stigma. I think it has to be under wraps. You know, it
Mm.
needs to be not under wraps, but it has to be dealt with in the right way.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've been in dressing rooms, you manage your team, you know the
Hmm.
banter that goes on, but
Yeah, of course.
and you've seen those kids or players that have played for you, and you've looked at them, and your instinct would say, "What's wrong?" And you're good enough to probably go up, "What's
Mm.
wrong, son?" Or you might miss it, but
Yeah.
they need to be able to come to you and say, "Look, James, I'm having a few problems here. Where would I go?" And then there needs to be, what's the word what that I'm looking for? There needs to be a pathway
Mm.
that's nice and in confidence. Look, we can get you help. It's all right, and then stick with that person, and I think that would probably need some FA funding to say, look, we
Yeah.
do have, and recognise we do have a problem with our, you know, some of these players are coming off. I don't know. They're coming off estates. They're coming off,
Yeah.
you know, and I think there's a lot of mental health from being at. There's a kid that I used to coach, manage a team under 16s, and he was at Tottenham until he was 15. It was the typical story, you know.
Yeah. And let it
Now,
go.
now
So
he's off. He's literally off doing
silly
what,
things. Yeah.
you know, bad, you know,
Yeah. Mm.
pretty bad stuff. And he was a very talented young, and
Mm.
we tried, but there was, and it all come back to, he was dropped by Tottenham at 15.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to single out Tottenham; it's happening every day.
Yeah.
But
Of course.
he
Yeah.
didn't have any support. It's like, look, you haven't made the grade. Sorry, bang,
See you
off
later.
you
Yeah.
go. Um,
Yeah.
and JP talks about it. JP Kissock at Whitehawk. He was at Everton and from 12, 13, right the way up until 21. And he tells the story that, you know, when he got dropped, he cried like a baby, and it was a couple of older players, Phil Neville he mentions, and one other, I think it's Cahill, came and put an arm around him and said, boom, because he really, you know, he really did suffer. And luckily he had a supportive family around him, a supportive older brother that took him under his wing and said, look, okay, we'll go into this. And he's doing all right, you know, he's doing really, really well. He's still playing and he's moving into coaching. But what I'm saying is, if you haven't got that, where do you go?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Imagine
Oh, yeah,
rejection, man.
yeah,
Because you're taken away from all your kids at school, your mates at school. You're going off training. You're wearing all the kit. You made it, and then at 15, 16, you're dropped. It's
so
like
see you later, yeah.
you look around. Oh shit, what happened? Where are my friends? I'll go and try and make it in the non-league world, and even then there's a stigma. I would imagine, I don't know, but it can be quite a brutal, cruel place at times. You know, oh, you
Yeah,
were at top. Oh, he was at top. He didn't make. You know, because everyone's
yeah,
competing for a place in the team,
yeah, of course. Yeah,
and that can affect you. That could probably,
I
you
think
would know better than I. That can affect your mental health,
a
your
lot of
confidence.
the ones obviously that who have come on here have said this as well, and they turned around and said that it's all like even managers have come on here from the Ryman leagues and stuff like that, and they've turned around and said something needs to be put in place, and it needs to be helped from the non-league up, and it needs to be something like a campaign, like there was with say when people who were gay in football, they there was a stigma behind that, and no one wanted to open up and say openly, "Oh, I'm gay, but I'm a football player." You know what I mean? So, on the other hand, again, I think there needs to be something like a campaign again. If people are struggling with mental health in football, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You need to talk. You need to open up. You need to say something before it overtakes um, your mind, and you're in a very more dark place. But who does that? That's the question, isn't it? Who's going to do that, and who is going to put the money in? As you say, a lot of people turn around and said it's all about money. It's all about funding. Ideally, you'd have a specialist in every club if you could. You know what I mean? Because football now is, as much as it's about results and about physical performance, 50% of it now is about mentally as well.
Yeah, you've got to be you've got to be fit to go in mentally to go into that environment, because um, it's like anything, isn't it? If you show a weakness, then you know you're liable to be getting a bit of stick and blah blah blah. And if you're not that confident in yourself and you're lacking, your self-esteem's low, or things just aren't going right for you, I think, yeah, you need somewhere, you need a pathway, and it might be regional. So like it could be regional. So like the Southeast League that White Hawk are in, they have a central, you know, they have a central uh,
Point person.
person
Yeah,
who is a mental health, not a welfare officer or safeguarding or all
yeah,
that. So that's for young kids. A mental health practitioner
yeah.
who's an expert that can then do your assessment, assess you,
Hmm.
so you're referred there, you get assessed, and then they say to you, look, we've got a fund here, we can get you the 6 or 12 sessions, and from there we can take it there. If there's a
Yeah.
severe issue and a severe problem, then we're going to find more funding. But there
Mm.
has to be a pot of money to recognise, because let's face it, John Fashanu was like was gay. He ended up killing himself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because
It's
yeah,
that
yeah,
serious, and it took ages. It took forever for that to come through. I mean, racism's still fucking rife in the stands, and not
yeah.
rife, but it's still about. It's still in the stand. It's still a major problem with what we've seen going on, and I don't want to go into that now
Mm.
on this show now. But it takes time for these things to go. But someone has to start, and I think you're right. someone has to start the campaign and say, look, not everyone is well mentally. Just because you play football on a pitch, you know, the strains of it, the stress of it, going to work. You've done it, James. You've been waiting for them guys to come to you in wherever you're training, and they've been a graft all day.
Yeah.
They're not all getting 5, 6, 7, 800 grand a week. They're
No.
getting what, 80s, 100s, 120s,
Yeah.
whatever they're getting, or less.
Mm.
They're going to graft, and then they're driving. In Whitehawk's case, some of them are driving an hour and a half, getting stuck in traffic, getting to training. They're expected to train on a Tuesday, train on a Thursday, then go home, and then the same on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Even that would take a toll on someone. And does anyone check? I don't know if anyone checks. Are you all
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, it's a big subject, a big problem.
Obviously, away from football, I know it's a big part of mine and your life, but away from football, education-wise, how do you feel they can maybe help education-wise? Do you feel it should be maybe in curriculum, or it should be more open for younger people to come to a practitioner, or have somebody in each school? Because at the moment, there's not specialists in schools to help at a younger age. Do you feel? How do you feel in education-wise that it could be better?
Yeah, it should be. It should be like PE, maybe not. You know, but it should be treated like physical education.
Mm.
I think because a lot of kids are coming to school. I went to school with a lot of a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
You know, I had to keep a lot down, and then they expected me to study hard. I was in the top band, very
Mm.
bright, but my mind was looking out the window. I was like, well, you know, literally, what's going to happen when I get home? Where's the tea going to come from? Who's going to do that? Then I'd meet someone and end up, you know, doing something that I shouldn't be doing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Whatever
Mm.
that might be. And then I didn't have anyone to fucking talk to, you know. And
Mm.
if there was someone in the school where I knew I could, probably still wouldn't have done it, but maybe if there was some education and say, look, it's all right not to be all right. That's the phrase that's kind of fits. It's all right not to be all right. It's
Yeah.
all right to talk to people, or even just do it in groups.
Mm.
Groups at an early age, sit in groups and talk about your feelings. How are you
Mm.
feeling? You can, you know, you can open up in here, and I think if kids are given that opportunity, then they will. Kids love to talk, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, but they're probably talk. You know, I worked a lot with the youth offending team, and we tried to do some stuff there. And these kids, the thing that I noticed with these kids was they never really communicated or spoken to anyone in a mature, or all right, they were kids, but they'd never, and no one had ever listened to them.
Yeah.
When
I
you
think
actually
that's a
listen,
big part of it, isn't it? It's listening.
yeah, you've got. I'm just going in the house now, but
It's so cool.
you need someone who's going to listen to me, who's going to hear what I'm saying.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's really important if you find that person that can listen to what you've got to say, but genuinely listen to what you're saying.
100%. Um, Last question before I let you go, mate. Overall, after obviously lockdown and everything what's gone on, I know you're a big fan of grassroots. You must have missed it and everything like that. I know you're a big fan, and you go and watch Rising Ballers and stuff like that. How do you feel that's made, like, grassroots has helped you, like, football wise, and maybe like Rising Ballers and other people like that who've helped you?
What, in terms of the
So,
channel and stuff?
yeah, or just focus on stuff so your mind doesn't go elsewhere, and in general, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many brilliant people that I've met, James, doing it,
Mm.
you know, and what I've learned is, you know, I've learned quite a lot of. I'll tell you who's been really good is Ennie and Jamie Pollitt at Rising Ballers,
Yep.
and they're young kids, and you know, I came into a world that was like kind of pretty competitive, and um, it was a little bit daunting at first, because I just had someone just offered me a channel and said, look, you go and do your non-league thing and we'll put it out. And I was like, yeah. And then after about 6 months or 7 months, I thought, fucking hell, this is really competitive, isn't it? It's like, bang, you know, you've got to get on it. And it's like, what do I really want from it? And Jamie took me to one side. He said, look, just stay in your lane. What do? You interview people, you film it, and you get stories around non-league. Just stick to that, because everything else. And then when I go out with my Insta and stuff, I do a different thing, and I joke about and I laugh about. I'm here, and look, you've seen me acting up. But I really enjoy that part. But the people that have helped me are them. Kensal Town have been really good and supportive. Jonan and Tim and the guys down there, because that's kind of local to me. Ross Weir's been brilliant. There's many people in the non-league world, and I've met some really, really good people, and they've all just been really forthcoming and up for doing it. You know, I have to just keep this, and I have to keep this right, because the ego takes over, and then all of a sudden you want to be. And there was a time when it's like, yeah, this is going to crack off, and blah blah blah. I've got this sort of, and I found out that actually some people say stuff that is at the top of their, you know, it's just at the top of their head, and we'll do that and that, and I try not to get involved in that too much now, and I just try and stay focused on what is I'm doing. We're in lockdown. I can't interview anyone live. I can't go walking around the grounds with them and get in history. So I'll just have a little rest, regroup, and when it all opens again, I can come out and be a bit more focused, and you know, I'll tell you, there's a guy called Alfie Gates down at Dorking. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, I know Alfie.
Yeah, he's only a young kid, but he's been brilliant. Loves me going down there. Mark White, the manager down there and the owner, he's been fantastic, very supportive. You know, they send you little texts and all that. How you doing? Blah blah. And that's what you want. Make friendships and stuff. You know, I'm not to make any. And usually the fan groups are really, really up for it, and they like what I do. And also the White Hawk people. You know, they've been really forthcoming. You know, it's like, come in, do what you want. Henry's brilliant. Abs is brilliant. All the White Hawk players, you know, that's what I love non-league and the Sunday League figures, because they kind of know you and they know your name, rather than you know them, and there's no. So you're forming relationships, really good relationships for me, on a weekly basis, you know, and meeting yourself finally, and we'll meet up when all this lockdown's done. It's like, because the first thing you think is, what do they want out of it? And I think as I go along with it, the more open-minded I am. People don't actually want a lot. They don't really want much. They just want you to turn up and have a good time, really, you know, and get what you need. And I think that's kind of how I keep sane amongst it all. Do you know what I mean? I know who's got my back. I know who my friends are, and everyone else, they're just doing their own life. They're doing their own thing. No, it's none of my business, really. But it's not easy. It's not easy. But you're doing good stuff.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Really last question. I just want you to say your last thoughts, obviously, on mental health. And if anyone is struggling, hopefully they can obviously contact you, contact me. Just put out your tags on Twitter and Instagram for anyone who needs a chat or is struggling. But your overall thoughts on mental health.
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognise that. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be scared of it. It's just part of the mind, and you can, if you just seek out the right people. They might not be there. It might be as you've said very clearly, it might be the person that you think that is so far off the scale that's going to help, that be able to help you. I think if you ask for help, most people will say, unless they're completely insane themselves, which you don't want, they will say, yes, come with me, I'll show you the way. And I think seeking professional help, get an assessment, and then once you've done that, I think then you can build up friendships around you. But just don't trust everyone, but don't trust no one.
You just
Trust.
got off a new. You just got a new follower, Peter from Nigerian six-a-side team. So you've just got
Oh,
a follower
brilliant!
from
Uh,
Nigeria
uh,
now.
Thank you, Peter. Brilliant. Let's get out there, Joe. Let's do the
Yeah,
world tour.
that's what we
Um,
need to do, mate. But
yeah, I
thank
mean
you very
that.
much. Throw your handles out there anyway for anyone, because obviously when
Yeah,
I upload it,
it's at odds and evens. Just type in at odds and evens, Mixcloud odds and evens, non-league chatter and tunes. Jamie's going to come on the next show, hopefully. We've got Your League TV on Twitter and Insta, and yeah, that's it. Odds and evens.
yeah, 100%. Cheers. Thank you very much, Simon. It's a great chat tonight. Really, really insightful. Keep safe, and yeah, 100%. We're going to sort out this interview
Yes.
and come on the show. 100%, mate. Thank you
All
for
right.
coming on.
Thanks very much, James. Take care. God
That's
bless,
right.
man.
Cheers.
See you
Thank you very
later.
much, mate. Bye bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
So that was Simon, odds and evens. League TV, great guy. Known him obviously through Henry Mugridge, Abs at Whitehawk. Big follower of Whitehawk FC. Obviously, Henry and Abs playing the England six-a-side with me. If you've missed any of this tonight, thank you to Peter from all the way in Nigeria for tuning in. Brilliant, mate. Thank you for supporting. If you missed any of him tonight or missed any of the past interviews, you can go to mental health hashtag let us talk on YouTube. Subscribe. You'll get the notifications when it's uploaded. Thank you again, Simon, for coming on. I'm back on Monday night. If anyone's got any struggles or going through anything, I'm here. Simon's there. Any of the past guests are around as well. Just message us. If not, I'm back with 4 guests on Monday night from 8 o'clock. Let us talk. Everyone keep safe. And that's me finished tonight. Thank you very much.